Hi, this is John Munter from northern Minnesota, and welcome to a drippy day. We're talking about the Gospel of Thomas by James Robinson. This is the Nag Hammadi Library. And just as a quick recap, from saying 4, we were talking about the breast of the Holy Spirit, which then came in number 5 to our experience of feeling divine love. And number 6 eventuates in living our life with that divine love. And number 7, integrating our religious experience with that feeling of divine love. And the most important part of that is the large fish, the higher self that we experience. And number 9 talks about it being 60 measure and 120 measure better than anything else. Number 10 talks about how it begins with a small fire of the Holy Spirit within us, and grows and blazes into a number 11, which is the incredible freedom of the higher self. So the normal question here is, then, number 12, how do we integrate this into our lives? The disciples, number 12 really refers to 12 disciples. Jesus is talking to the 12 disciples here, to ourselves. The disciples said to Jesus, "We know that you will depart from us. Who is to be our leader?" Jesus said to them, "Wherever you are to go to James the just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being." Now James, as we know, is the Bishop of Jerusalem, successor to Jesus. But we also know from the research of recent history that he really was considered the most holy person in Palestine in the 20 years after Jesus and John the Baptist were killed. He was the alternative high priest, so to speak, for the Jewish people under the importation of the Roman high priests at that time, who were not always very popular. James was known as a person who interceded for his people in the temple. It was said that the skin on his knees was so thick, as thick as camel's hooves, from his praying and kneeling in the temple. So he was also a political figure as well, because he was a spiritual leader of those who wanted to have a revolution. He was also a miracle worker. He was considered a rainmaker. Like today it's raining, sprinkling right now. So he manifested heaven and earth, and that's what Jesus is saying here, is that James is the guy who manifested heaven and earth. And that's what I'm kind of trying to do with my little hazelnut bush here. This was planted up here in northern Minnesota by the University of Minnesota, because I have an acre of them down there. And I was amazed this year at all these little hazelnuts that popped out of this bush. They're really big sized, and look at that. If I peel one of these, they're like this big. That's amazing to have this consistency and number of nuts on this bush. So I've got bigger hazelnuts, but this bush itself is impressive, and my little Garden of Eden here. So let's go back to the normal question then from number 12. So you want us to go out and heal and do miracles and that type of thing? And Jesus is saying, well, let me tell you a little story here. So Jesus said to his disciples, in number 13, compare me to someone and tell me whom I'm like. Simon Peter said to him, "You are like a righteous angel." Matthew said, "You are like a wise philosopher." Thomas said, "Master, my mouth is wholly incapable of saying whom you are like." Jesus said, "Well, I am not your master. Because you have become intoxicated from the bubbling spring which I have measured out." And he took him and withdrew, and he told him 3 sayings. When Thomas returned to his companions, they asked him, "What did Jesus say to you?" Thomas said to him, "If I tell you one of the things which he told me, you will pick up stones and throw them at me. A fire will come out of the stones and will burn you up." Oh my gosh. Okay, so Thomas is intoxicated here, and that's the point, is the ecstatic consciousness here. It's not so much being a righteous angel or wise philosopher, a Greek wise person, but it's the ecstasy of the higher self. And the character of this is, though, that it's a big secret, really, because it's heretical. These three sayings that Jesus told Thomas were heresies. And the disciples would have stoned Thomas for speaking this way. And the fire that came out of the stones was really regret. When you die and you go through your life review and you retrospect your life and you see that you may have stoned someone like this who said these sayings, you would experience so much regret that you would just want to die or to burn up. And so that's what they're saying. It's not hellfire, it's your own regret. So then the normal question is then, well, how are we supposed to live our lives then with this tremendous ecstasy and these secrets that we know in a practical sense? And we'll have to come back to that next time because we're running out of time. But I thank you for joining us, and keep tuned. This is John Munter, and if you want more information, contact my website at www.themirroredbridalchamber.com for my book, The Integral Gospel of Thomas, online. Thank you.